Welcome, this is Terry Ewell. Weissenborn study number 35 is a case study for rinforzando, or RF markings. Weissenborn uses this mark throughout his studies to indicate a special type of emphasis in the quiet dynamics. Let's examine the two comparable passages in the study that illustrate how the RF markings are employed. Notice the similarity between the musical passages. At the start of the study, the RF is placed as the climax of a quieter dynamic. In lines 9 and 10, an SF is placed at the climax at the louder dynamic. Thus you can see that RF is a special kind of stress in the quieter dynamics, much like SF is a special kind of stress in the louder dynamics. You might say that RF, rinforzando, is a quieter SF, sforzando. The SF can also be written as SFZ. Many students make the mistake of thinking that staccato notes are always short. Staccato doesn't mean short, it means separated. There should be some length to the opening staccato notes. In line 2, the portato notes, that is staccato notes with slurs over them, are performed with even greater length. Do you remember the 5 articulation lengths we practiced in the earlier studies? The lengths of these notes here should be 4 or 5. If you have mastery over these lengths, you can create phrase shaping with note lengths. For instance, I will play this passage and increase the note lengths from 4 to 5 in order to provide musical motion to the G3 on the downbeat of line 3, measure 1. Don't forget that accidentals carry through the measure. In line 4, measure 5, there are 2 D sharps. Line 5, measure 1, also has 2 D sharps. A staccato mark refers to the length of the note, not the start of the note. It doesn't mean that the note is tongued just because there is a staccato mark over it. For instance, in line 9, the dots over the notes indicate a separation between it and the next note. However, they are slurred, not tongued. F sharp 3 starts with the tongue and then slurs to E sharp 3. 2 beats later, B3 starts with the tongue, then slurs down to A3. There are a few alternate fingerings I use in the study. In line 3 at the fermata, I use the thumb G sharp key for a smoother transition from F sharp 4. My standard F sharp 4 uses the right hand little finger. In line 7, measure 6, I use the trill fingering for the fast B3 to C sharp 4 exchange. Similarly, in line 10, measure 2, I also use the trill fingerings for movements between F sharp 4 and G sharp 4. Weissenborn number 37 will provide methods for practicing trills. Let me provide some fingerings, however, for this study. For the trill in line 4, in the first complete measure, use this fingering. For the second trill in that line, use this fingering. For the trill in line 9, you have 2 choices. I prefer the left hand C sharp 4, but you can also use the C sharp trill key. This is the first study with high C sharp 5. I use one of these 3 fingerings depending upon my needs. The first fingering is the most common. It is not quite as full or loud as the last fingering, but it is the easiest to use of the 3 and enunciates quite well. I almost always use both the D and C vent keys when I play this note. The second fingering provides a good approach to D-sharp 5 when needed. The last fingering is especially good when a loud dynamic is needed. This fingering is my choice for the exalted C-sharp 5 in the Shostakovich Ninth Symphony, fourth movement. This is the first study in the collection that uses marcato markings. Marcato markings indicate even more forceful and intense accents than regular accents. Weissenborn further provides the term marcatissimo to emphasize the extreme accents in line 9. Notice this similarity between the quieter passage in line 6 and the louder passage in line 9. I have marked the breaths in lines 6 through 7 and 9 through 10. You don't actually need to breathe each time. However, provide separation there and don't breathe after the pair of slurred quarter notes. In this reflection, I will discuss vibrato. First, I will identify possible sources for the vibrato and then recommend the use of a certain sound production component to produce vibrato. Then I will apply vibrato drives or vibrato phrasing to some examples from the study and conclude with some exercises for vibrato mastery. Some of the material provided here is drawn from the second chapter of my monograph titled Wind Performer's Guide to Increasing Endurance. Bassoon performers have created vibrato from most of the 5 components for sound production. Component 1, the abdominal muscles. Component 2, the throat area, larynx. From component 3, the back or pharyngeal part of the tongue. This is the part of the tongue in the upper throat. And from component 5, the embouchure. Component 1, the abdominal area, produces a slow and heavily pulsing vibrato. Many performers think that they produce vibrato from the abdominal area, but X-ray videos and small camera scopes have shown that the vibrato most bassoonists make originates in the throat area. These performers are probably feeling the back pressure in the abdominal area from the motions in the throat. When I produce a slow vibrato, I have the sensation of vibrato in my abdominal area. As I increase the speed of the vibrato, however, the sensation appears to move up the wind column towards the throat. I do not recommend vibrato made from components 1 and 5. Component 1, the abdominal muscles, should be employed for dynamic changes only. It also doesn't produce the variety of speeds needed. When component 5, the embouchure or jaw, is used for vibrato, it can vary the pitch too much. In addition, it is best to reserve the embouchure for tuning and shaping notes. I recommend using the throat area, component 2, since this area is not employed for any other sound production needs. Component 2 can then operate independently of the other components. Some performers also sympathetically move part of the tongue in the throat when they create vibrato. Many vibrato studies of woodwind instrument performers indicate that although the mechanisms for vibrato are contained in the throat area, the muscle groups used for vibrato can vary widely. There are many moving parts in our throat areas. Some parts are used by certain performers, and other muscles and structures are employed by other people for vibrato. I provide references at the end of the video if you wish to learn more about vibrato.